My name's Carl. I'm the General Manager for a company called WyldLynx. We work in the information management and data governance space, predominantly around products like Content Manager or TRIM, or the core data discovery and risk insights product. Here today we've got Mark from North Metro TAFE. Mark, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Roberts. I've been in WA government for quite a few years. Used TRIM, which is now Content Manager, for over 20 years. I've been working with WyldLynx for about 2 years at this stage, yeah. And we've been using a product that used to be called Voltage Fusion, now called Cedri. We've sort of put our own slant on it. From North Metropolitan TAFE, which is the leading TAFE institution in WA. We have 9 campuses, 1,600 staff. Bit of a challenge through COVID with getting our lecturers to save electronically. But we transitioned them from Teams to SharePoint. But what we have is a legacy of data and a lot of privacy data in all sorts of different repositories. So the solutions that WyldLynx has presented to us have been really good, and looking forward to working with Carl and his team in the future.
So can you tell us a little bit about your process or your journey? Like obviously, starting in a small space and a proof of value or a project, and then obviously, into where you are today.
So yeah, for the last, actually next month I've been there for 2 years. It was quite greenfields when I started. My position was created due to a restructure. That's what generally happens in government. When you need things to change, you restructure and create a new area. So the team is responsible for information governance, so it's records management. We've got privacy, anything to do with data governance, information breaches. It's pretty, as I said before, it's pretty much the A to Z. So the first part of the journey was to really get some policies up and running, sort of have that framework, have a look at where we're saving, what sort of systems we've got. We are part of a shared service with the Department of Training and Workforce Development. Because of the size of the TAFE institutions and the sector, there's 5 TAFEs altogether, it's a bit of a slow burn to update student systems, HR systems, finance systems, and also we have this system called Blackboard as well, which is a student collaboration system between the lecturers. So a lot of these systems are old, so there is a bit of a challenge to uncover the data. And there's also a bit of a challenge working with our service provider who is quite risk averse. Whilst we're our own legal entity, we are relying on quite a few services. And what I've also done is had approval to get Content Manager out of the department, and also set it up in-house. And then we can integrate what we need to integrate, in
a more detailed way.
Yeah, with Cedri, with lots of other systems as well.
And a good segue. So obviously, as you said, the product's obviously changed its name. It was Voltage Fusion originally, and before my time, there's been a few others in that. From the concept that we were, developing that with the OpenText team and previously Micro Focus team, but. You obviously nicknamed it Cedric. Do you want to explain what that means? Because it's a little bit different for everybody else.
So yeah, Cedric, we decided that, probably like yourself, Carl, we didn't really like the name change, because the name change is literally just what the product does, as opposed to, quite like Voltage Fusion before, because it looked like a little bit like a superhero, sort of flying into your repositories, trying to find all your, those really sensitive personal information that you've got. So trying to use the current name and come up with a bit of a character, a bit of our own superhero, and I actually used AI. I quite like using AI, and used Copilot to generate a
little robot man.
Bit of a robot man. He has his name Cedric on there, and we've created Cedric very much the same definition as what Cedric is as well.
Yep. And obviously that sort of localises it a bit for you as well, because as we've talked, as your journey sort of progresses in this space, that ability to sort of give it a name and a brand internally to your own organisation, different to what others are doing, you start to localise it. And your little Cedric logo that we've helped with, and different spaces will start to pop up, and he's found this, and it'll start to be that sort of good news story as things progress.
Yeah, 100%. So we've created a SharePoint article about Cedric, and it's really just started with who is Cedric. and Cedric is coming. So we just left it at that for now. And as we start rolling out and going into more and more business areas, they'll certainly know what it is.
And Cedric's found this, and he's cleaned up that, and he's working behind the scenes in that space.
Yeah, some of the scary things are, the credit card numbers. There's so much sensitive personal information out there, driver's license numbers, passport numbers, and we can go ad infinitum about that. It's incredible.
And I suppose a good segue into, obviously as part of your journey, and everyone's journey is slightly different. There's no perfect journey, there's no race. It is unique to the entities that we work with. But any surprises and again, still in your sort of infancy sort of journey after a year and a bit, and starting to hit the ball rolling now, but any sort of surprises or unexpected findings that you can share that's not too confidential or secret in that space, or any learnings from that?
There has been a number of those. I think the scariest one was credit card authorisation forms. So you'll have a student come in, for example, and they'll come in with their dad's credit card, as fills out the details, has the CVC number, and also your expiry date. Yep. These have been scanned, put into SharePoint. They're sitting in Outlook. They're sitting in desktops and all sorts of things like that. So we did an initial scan of those documents, just looking at that same metadata that sits inside, and came up with quite a scary number of them. Yep. They're also getting retained in paper form and kept around different areas as well. So I've been doing quite a large risk assessment on that, looking at all the forms that we have which carry sensitive personal information, yep. and trying to reduce the retention and get rid of it. Yep. Just once you come in, once you've paid through your credit card, either hand it back or put it through the shredder, to be honest.
Yep. It's funny, I've got a number of I find funny, corny sayings, and one of them is around turning the tap off at the top of the hill rather than mopping. And I suppose a number of discovery journeys and projects we've gone through often go down that process, and people still keep trying to mop, as opposed to going like you've done and reverse it a bit and go, let's actually see the entry. What are the forms? Let's stop it here. We've still got 20 years of problems to fix. That's okay. Yeah. But that's not going to happen overnight as well.
Yeah, and your analogy is just like the bottom of a waterfall, isn't it? Yeah, you want to stop that trickle of water at the top, because we have just a waterfall of privacy issues. Yeah. And as you said before as well, we're not alone. Yeah. But this solution is definitely going to help us, and also it has helped us already find those really high risk ones, and then we just start moving through and reducing that. Yep.
And I suppose, what's something that you've learnt that you didn't know before you started? Like, I've got a few examples of the preservation hold as one, and I'm sure there's some others, but any that you can sort of talk to that you've learnt because of what we've gone through together?
That was probably the first thing, was the preservation hold library, and how long the retention period was set just in Microsoft. So we did our first scan, probably close to 12 months ago.
Yeah, just over a year ago.
Just over a year ago, yeah. And we found out of a 4 terabyte repository in SharePoint, 70% was in the preservation hold library. And then we discovered that the preservation hold library is just defaulted to 7 years. Yep.
The good old 7-year retention that
7-year
IT people understand?
Pretty much, yeah. It's just like a standard, finance one or something like that. Just whack it on. Yep. It took us many months, because we're a subtenant of the Training and Workforce Department. So it took us many, many months to get a sector-wide change, because we had to get it changed sector-wide. And it's still taking a little while to filter down this policy, because it's a big tenant. It's a big tenant, it's a big beast. We've got bucket loads of terabytes of stuff. Yep. But it has now enabled us to just launch Cedric into the North Metro wild.
I suppose I often say this to different customers, but I find sort of WA is a little bit ahead of other states. No disrespect to other states, but I know from a PRIS perspective, it would probably be good just to understand, obviously you've got some drivers there that are probably a little bit ahead of other states in different spaces, and we work across a lot, but a little bit probably about what PRIS is and what that meant for you as part of this journey as a starting point, looking to the future as well. Yeah,
PRIS has been, I think it was slated about 5 or 6 years ago at least, and it has been on the back burner. So whereas as a state, we've been using the Australian Privacy Act, or the Commonwealth Act 1988. Whilst it's it's reasonable, we really had to have our own state one. Yep. the responsible information sharing part of it is really, really important. We've discovered, just like other agencies, you've got to be really robust in terms of your information access and disclosure, sharing to other, not just other organisations, but also sharing to your stakeholders, students, ex-staff. So we've got freedom of information. We have subpoenas. We just have third-party. We've got a lot of third-party employment agencies who contact us wanting student information. So it's really important with that legislation coming in is really tightening up our privacy and release. Cybersecurity is another one for us. If we get hacked, everybody's open for it. To protect what we've got in our systems, to make sure we're locking down the really highly sensitive information. We did have an example last year where, unfortunately, there was a breach, and luckily that the person or persons or entities or whatever they were, they didn't take anything, so that was good. So that's a bit of a wake-up call. But the privacy side of things is so important, and everyone's gone through. Well, not everyone's gone through a breach personally, but most people have. Like Optus as an example, I think that was 11 million. I think the Latitude was massive as well, and we don't want to be another number. We want to control our systems. We've got a good cybersecurity team, but we just got to back that up by making sure that we're not collecting information that we don't need to.
And the difference about what's in data is a big key thing, especially with unstructured. And I was breached before it was cool, 7 years ago, before all this was all sorts of fun with a bank and some fun, human errors. Mark was saying earlier this morning as well. But one of the things that I was one of the, again, corny favourite sayings that I've got is around people have been personally affected, and now they're professionally aware. Having done this for over a decade, the push hasn't been that no one's really given a crap. Or really cared or thought about that. Whereas now it becomes, I have a value of what my data is worth. When I put my work hat on or my work shirt or socks, whatever it may be, you're now starting to think about, well, what data have I got? What am I holding? Where am I holding it? Those types of things, because they've got that relationship with that data. One of
the big things for state government was that the Office of Digital Government, which is part of the Premier and Cabinet Department, they've been really, really pushing the PRIS readiness as well for the last 3 years. So 6-month reports, making sure that we're creating the policies that we need, raising the awareness, the training.
Information asset registers, all the things that happen with PRIS.
And it's been really good at uncovering our actual assets that like 5 years ago you wouldn't even know you had.
What systems have I got? What holds what?
What's the classification of those systems as well? Is it official sensitive? Is it personal information? Is it commercial? Is it legal? The list goes on. The list goes on.
And I suppose some final key thoughts, takeaways. Obviously, again, you've gone down the journey. You've had that impetus to sort of change and go into that space. But for someone who's looking to go down this sort of space, any sort of key advice or takeaways, or how much you want to bite off for a first chunk, or any thoughts on that?
For me, pilots are probably the easiest way to get, especially if you're in a medium to large organisation. You can't do everything at once.
Yep, you can't swallow everything in one bite.
Absolutely, and generally in information management, it's probably not the most resourced area. So you have to do bite-sized chunks, and you have to be quite successful in terms of proof of concept. Yep. Do some really good tests, get the data out there, get the data to executive, and you have to get executive buy-in. It's the most important thing. Being that we're a learning organisation and quite innovative, it's been, certainly from my previous experience in other agencies, it's been a lot easier to get us up and running, and a lot more support from exec. It's actually been really refreshing to have that support and the funding as well. Obviously, nothing's free, but the amount of money it will actually save an organisation having this sort of product, like Cedric, we'll call it Cedric now, it's hard to gauge how much money you can save.
Different use cases have different ROIs.
Exactly, there's so many risks out there. If your data gets exposed, there's reputational damage, number one. Yep. If it's credit card information, financial information, well, it obviously gets financial loss, and that's the last thing we want. We want to still have the reputation of being the premier TAFE organisation in WA and sector leading, which we do. I think we do really well. And I think that's probably about it.
And I think it's interesting you mentioned the word POC. I'm not a big fan of that word. but I call it, a couple of years ago, I created the concept of what I call a proof of value, which is, the value to your organization is different to the next. It's a short, sharp, tailored, outcome-based scenario, and for you, we sort of launched straight into it, but for other customers, we've gone through this POV or POV that we go through, and getting a report, getting something tangible, giving that to the executive to be able to have those conversations, because they often have what I call is the oh shit moment, or the oh no moment, where they're actually seeing it and going, oh wow, this is now tangible. I can't unsee that I've got 32,000 credit cards or 19,000 driver's license or whatever it may be. So it definitely does sort of help that sort of journey during that process.
I was fortunate to previously use Control Point, which is, it's a little bit different, but it was the
predecessor.
I guess the grandfather of Cedric. A little bit different to use, quite hard to set up, but it's really good to see the advances in the product now, and being cloud-based, so much more accessible, and it's pretty quick as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate your time today, and again sharing some of your stories and some of your learnings as well. We really appreciate it. I'm sure if anyone else wants further information, you can obviously reach out to the OpenText team or the WyldLynx team, and we're more than happy to talk further, talk through our POV program, or answer any questions or demonstrations that you need to run through. So really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.